The standard position of an angle is when we put an angle on an XY grid. So if this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, in trigonometry, what we do is we use these to represent angle measurements as well. So we say that this is 0 degrees and this is 90 degrees. And when we put an angle in here, we put the vertex of the angle on the origin. Then one side of the angle, called the initial side, always goes at 0 degrees. So the initial side goes on the positive x-axis, which is 0 degrees, which represents 0 degrees. Then the other side of the angle just goes somewhere else, and we call this the terminal side of the angle. We usually use some sort of a Greek letter to represent an angle, theta, for example, and draw an arrow to show which direction the angle is rotating. So it's going from 0 and then towards 90 degrees. This is a quadrant 1 angle. We also have angles, other 4 quadrants here. We have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And we're going to draw angles in other quadrants in just a minute. Now once we've drawn an angle in standard position, so I'm going to redraw my angle here in standard position, we can use then that angle to create a right triangle by taking any point on the terminal side and just dropping a perpendicular line down to the x-axis. So here's our angle theta. Well, looking opposite theta, this is the y direction. Adjacent to theta is the x direction. So the y side is the opposite side. The x side is the adjacent side. And so I want you to always put those two together. X is the adjacent side, and y is the opposite side when the angle is in standard position. Now, this is the hypotenuse here of the right triangle, but we often refer that to as r. And the reason we use r for the hypotenuse is that we are going to later put this triangle inside a circle, something like this. So we draw the triangle like this inside the circle. This would be x and y and r. So we're going to be doing more with that later, but that's why we sometimes use r to represent the hypotenuse. Now, because of the way we're drawing this, I want to make sure that we never put the right angle on the y-axis. So never do this. Here's my angle, and I make the triangle look like this. There's my right angle. So never put the right angle on the y-axis. The right angle always is on the x-axis. Now let's think about what happens now when we go to other quadrants. I needed to do a little erasing there. Okay, so let's say we are in quadrant 2. That means we are looking at an angle that is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So, for example, let's look at an angle of 150 degrees. So 150 degrees is going to be 90 plus another 60. So if we go all the way around 90 and then we go about another 60 degrees, it would be about right here. So it starts at 0 and we go around to 90. So this is 150 degrees. Notice I can also look and see that the angle between 150 and 180 is 30, so this angle should be about half as big as this angle here, which would be the other 60 degrees. So that kind of gives me an idea of how to draw it. If I go to quadrant 3, then I am looking at an angle that is between 180 degrees and 270 degrees, because this is 0 and this is 90. And I didn't actually go around and do this whole thing. But realize if we go all the way around, we're going to have a 90 degree angle, another 90, another 90, 90, another 90, so 360 all the way around. And if we look at an angle from 0 to 180, that's a straight line. And you've learned before that a straight angle is 180 degrees. So we're looking at an angle between 180 and 270. So let's say, for example, 210. So 210 is about 30 more than 180. So we start at 0, and we go all the way around to 180, and we go just a little bit further, another 30 degrees. This would be 210 degrees. And then in quadrant 4, if we're in quadrant 4 here, then we're looking at an angle that is between 270 and 360, because we start at 0, go to 90, go to 180, go to 270, and then back to 360. So let's do 315 degrees. Well, 315 is actually halfway between 270 and 360, because 270 plus 45 degrees gives you 315, and 315 plus 45 gives you 360. So we're looking at this angle here all the way around to here is 315 degrees. Now later we'll talk about, okay, how do we do trig and triangles with these kinds of angles now? So these are angles in standard position.